Yeah, it's a bit mad. So when I was younger, say 3, 4, I used to dress in my little vest that we used to sleep with, and my little pants, boxers. And I used to run up and down the corridor pretending to be Dwayne Chambers, because that was that was the guy at the time. Years on, I've had the privilege of racing Dwayne Chambers at the Welsh Champs and the British Champs. If I'm being honest with you, he absolutely, completely thrashed me. And I remember I was in a start line, and at the British Champs, they call your name. So, you know, the whole stuff, this person does this, you wave, this person does this, you wave. And they called Dwayne Chambers' name, and I was just clapping for him, and not knowing, obviously I knew I was about to race, but I think it was just such an overwhelming privilege in my mind to race him. And yeah, I'm lucky enough that like we spoke after the race, we've got some pictures, and I've seen him a few times now, so it's not just the one time now, I've seen him every night. I saw him last week actually, at the Nationals again. And yeah, we get to talk, you know, he's given me some advice over the years, and yeah, it was a humbling experience, especially at his big age. I mean, he still beats people at his age, but yeah, you know, going on now, I've represented Wales internationally in 100 meters, 200 meters, and the football 100 meter relay. That's obviously been the highlights in terms of the international side of things, getting to go away with the team. We went to Dublin, had the Home Nations Internationals. That was really, really cool. Something else that I've managed to do this year, which is very recent, is I'm doing a bit of guide running. For those who don't know, there's a guy called James, he's also Welsh, and he's visually impaired, so he runs the blindfold. And I was asked this year, by chance, just if I was happy to help him and see if the partnership of me running in tandem with him would work. And lo and behold, it has certainly worked. And even though it's early days, I think we're now ranked, I think it's 5th or 6th in the world at the minute, which is very promising. I think we've had like 4 races, so there's guys in there that have been racing for 5, 6 years, and we're just up and competing with them. And that's been amazing. On top of that, I've got 3 national medals at the Welsh Senior Championships, 200 meter ones, one being 2 weeks ago, and a 60 meter one being a couple of years ago indoors. And the one 2 weeks ago meant a lot. I think it was quite a difficult time in terms of my body. I was injured just before that. I did a bit of racing with James Board, which was obviously great, but obviously I still want to achieve my personal goals. And lucky for me, I got a medal, and I think that has to be probably the most important medal for me. Overall, the highlights, on top of obviously the internationals and the medals, is actually just being in spaces and circles that I didn't think when I was younger I could actually get into. Obviously, you believe that you could get there, but when you're actually there, you look back and think, wow, this is like, it's amazing, isn't it? Like, the people that you looked up to, you're now competing with them, you're now touching base with them, you're now sharing the tracks, sharing experiences with them. And you know, on top of all the achievements, to me that just has to be the biggest highlight, is just, you know, seeing their personal growth. In terms of faith side of things, I mean, growing up in an Adventist household, sport and faith were not necessarily directly aligned. So definitely it took me a while to get into sport. The reason I got into it so late was actually because, I guess, in my house, doing sport wasn't necessarily the priority. And like I said, with competing on Sabbath, in terms of football when you're younger especially, it definitely clashed. So kind of that was definitely a challenge as I started to get more and more into athletics. But on the flip side of that, it's actually been more enlightening, because I think whilst being in a sport, you start to see people that have actually got a similar faith to you in terms of Christianity, and what it's allowed for me to do, and for the others people to connect and to network with people of a similar mind. And I recall one big experience when I was preparing for a race. It was in London, and there's a few of us in Wales that are Christians, so we were praying before the race together behind the start line, and there's a guy from Derby who looked over and said, "You guys, like, I love what you're doing here." And it turns out he's also Christian, and it just allowed for us to connect with different people. And I think that's amazing, and that's been rewarding. The sport's hard. I'm not going to lie to you, the sport's difficult. You have your low times, your high times, and in the low times, sometimes it's easy, and I won't lie, I certainly question God in terms of, is this what he wants me to do? Is this where he wants me to be? I'm lucky that, like, on the track, I'm by myself, but I'm with God, and it's almost an extra being, an extra person that gives you some comfort that, like, actually you can do this. But when it goes wrong, it's the same thing, and I'm at the low point, but I'm with God there, and I'm questioning, you know, does He want me to do this? Is this really what my destiny is? Is this really what my path is supposed to be? And I think that's definitely been a faith challenge. But what I've seen over the years is those that have just stayed true to the journey and the relationship with Christ, it's grown for them. And you sort of see it in the sport. You see guys that actually have a genuine relationship with God, and you can see how the highs are higher, the highs are sweeter. And right now, some of those guys are doing absolutely amazing things. I think there's a guy that won British Championship last week, Jeremiah Azu from Wales, big up Jez, you know, and his dad is a pastor, and he always emphasizes how his relationship with God has impacted on the journey. And I think it's just great to see, and it actually gives me confidence to be more open with sharing it. And the more I share it, the more I get rewarded, and we have these conversations and these networking with people that are of a like mind. It's great. In terms of closing thoughts, really, you just have to keep going. You just have to keep going, and you just have to believe that God wants you to be here. And from my point of view, if God didn't want me to do this, he would find a way to show me, and He hasn't. And for me, that's the confidence I need to just keep pushing. But you push physically, mentally, spiritually. You have to keep going at your trade. You have to master your trade. Keep applying yourself correctly. And you know, I was just a young athlete at uni who was running times that people don't even talk about, and you know, now I'm in a space which I could never imagine, and that's just because I just kept going at it. So anyone can do what they want to do or what they seek to achieve if they just keep going. So guys, honestly, just keep applying your trade, and who knows where the journey can take you. My name is Makoye, and I'm a Seventh-day Adventist.